Look, I've got a client making 7 figures a year and they only get 100 to 200 views per video. Meanwhile, you've got YouTubers with millions of views eating ramen noodles. David Dobrik is one example. He said that 200 million views now only gives him $2,000 a month. And that's with a channel with millions of subscribers. Because there's a massive difference between having a YouTube channel and a YouTube business. So today I'm going to be showing you the exact funnel that I use and my students use to turn viewers into 5K, 10K, even 50K clients. Now, by the way, this is a little more advanced than what I typically go over on this channel, but whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, you're gonna be able to learn something from this video. So just to be clear who this video is for. This video is for you if you are a professional that wants to do a side hustle, a professional that wants to use YouTube to build their authority and get a better job, a business owner that knows you should be starting on YouTube, but you think it's gonna take too much time or it's too hard, someone who's already started on YouTube, but they got stuck, YouTubers who are already getting views, but they're having trouble monetizing. And by monetizing, I mean outside of just AdSense, or YouTubers that are getting views and they're monetizing effectively, but they feel like a chicken with their head cut off and they want to be able to do it all much more effectively and efficiently. And this video is not for you if you want to get rich quick scheme, you're not ready to take YouTube seriously, or if you're not willing to put in the work. With that being said, if you're curious how this applies to your specific business, there's a link in the description for a free call. And in this call, we'll be giving you a free audit that we typically charge $1,000 for, and there is only 10 slots open for this free audit. So book the call as soon as you see this, but only book it if you're serious about growing and making money on YouTube. Because in this call, we'll see where you are right now, where you want to be. We'll make a plan to get there, and then we'll see if we're a good fit to work together or not. So here's the thing that nobody tells you about scaling past 6 figures. The tactics that got you here won't get you there. And the tactics that got you there won't get you over here, right? As you scale bigger and bigger, you actually have to prioritize different things. And I see the same things over and over again that are keeping people stuck. Now, I learned this the hard way because I was able to get my YouTube channel to making around $10,000 a month relatively quickly, but then it took me a while to scale up to 30K a month. And then I got stuck at 30K a month for a long time. And I think the biggest reason why I got stuck around that 30K per month range is because I was still working my pharmacy job. And in this job, I was making around $10,000 a month, right? It was a good 6-figure job. But you might be asking, Shane, why didn't you quit when you were making $30,000 from your YouTube channel? Well, because I was terrified that it would all disappear. And so I basically had one foot in the door and one foot outside, and I wasn't fully committed. And I was doing most of it myself, and I was scared to have somebody else do it because I thought maybe they wouldn't do as good a job as me, or I thought, oh, I'd have, a big payroll or big overhead expense. And then maybe the revenue goes down and I'd have to fire those people. And so because of the fact that I was doing everything myself, I was stuck working in the business and I couldn't work on the business. And one of my clients, Sean, was in the exact same position. He was stuck making around $30,000 a month for literally years. And I recognized the exact mistakes he was making because I made them myself. And after implementing the system, 2 months later, he was making $180,000 a month. And 9 months later, he had his first $500,000 month. So what changed? Well, he stopped thinking like a YouTuber and he started thinking like a CEO. And a big problem with a lot of people who are high achievers is they think that only they can do it, right? They think that putting more time into creating content equals more money. And that's just wrong. In fact, it's dead wrong. And one of my secret clients, the one that I can't name because he doesn't want competition, obviously, he gets around 500 views per video and he makes 8 figures a year. And he doesn't do anything himself except for recording the videos. Literally everything else is taken care of. Meanwhile, 99% of YouTubers out there are trying to go viral. But the truth is, it's not about the views. It's about the system. So let me break down the 5-layer funnel that separates the pros from the wannabes. And yeah, I said layers, not steps, because this is 3-dimensional. So layer 1 is strategic content positioning. So the biggest thing here is stop trying to help everyone. Now, don't get me wrong. When people first start their channels, a lot of the time they have that allure of getting a lot of views, and so they'll chase that mass market content. And don't get me wrong, I did this myself as well, especially on my main channel. I chased the mass market content. I got a lot of views that of course resulted in basically no money. And that's not the worst thing in the world. And in fact, if you're in that position, which a lot of YouTubers are, you can pivot out of it. But the biggest thing is stop trying to help everyone. You know what content that tries to help everyone gets you? Views. That's it. Maybe if you're lucky, they'll comment thanks links and then bounce. And I call this the Wikipedia problem, right? Wikipedia helps millions of people daily. And they're also constantly begging for donations. Why? Because they help a lot of people a tiny little bit. They give you general information on a bunch of different subjects. So don't be Wikipedia. Here's what to do instead. Create content that pre-qualifies buyers. Now, an example of this, my secret recruiting agency client, the one that gets like 100, 200 views per video and made about $2 million last year, they help with one specific hiring pain point. It's super niche, super specific. They basically hire one position in one industry and they do it better than anybody else in the world. And it's a highly sought after position that causes business owners and CEOs a lot of pain, and it's just a massive problem that's pretty hard to solve. But to business owners with that problem, it's worth everything to fix it. So they're getting about 100 views per video, and probably all 100 views are CEOs of technology companies, and they're making multiple 7 figures a year. Layer 2 is the invisible qualification systems. Now, this is where it gets spicy. Most people use lead magnets wrong. They give away their best stuff for free, then wonder why nobody buys. Your lead magnet should qualify, not just attract. Here's one of my clients, Joaquin. He's a genius kid. He got into the #1 business school in the world as a foreign student, Wharton. And he went from making basically zero money to over $80,000 a month at 18 years old. And he has a very clever way of doing lead magnets. He actually leaves Easter eggs in his videos. So he strategically places value in people who find them. They're the type who book calls for his high ticket offer, which basically he helps international students get into Ivy League schools. Why? Because he's an international student that got into an Ivy League school. Another thing you can do to make your lead magnets really good is make them solve a super specific problem and do it as fast as possible. So there was one lead magnet that I heard of. I actually forgot who did it, so I apologize, but it was somebody else. It wasn't me. But it was basically an 8-word email sequence that you can send out to your email list to generate tens of thousands of dollars of sales. So it was literally just 8-word email, and you send it out to your email list, and oftentimes it will generate tens of thousands of dollars. That is an example of a great lead magnet because it solves a problem very quickly, generating revenue. It targets a specific type of person, right? Only people who have email lists, and it's something they can consume fast and get value from really fast as well, right? So that is a perfect example of a lead magnet. Now, speaking of a lead magnet like that, we made 3 different GPTs. The niche GPT to help you choose your niche, the title GPT to help you find really good video ideas, and the monetization GPT to help you figure out how to properly monetize your channel. Now, these were trained on hundreds of hours of our live coaching sessions. Now, as you can see, those lead magnets are easy to consume. All you do is just talk back and forth to an AI that's been specifically trained in our methodology. So super easy to use and consume, and it solves problems that a lot of people watching this video probably have. Choosing the right niche or figuring out ways to make their channel unique, choosing the right titles and video ideas, and monetizing your channel effectively. And then layer 3 is automated authority sequences. So email is dead, they said. Yeah, tell that to just about everyone who's making a ton of money online's bank account. Email is not dead. But here's the thing. It's not just email anymore. It's email plus retargeting plus value bombs plus social proof. It's omnipresence. Now, Davis came to me frustrated because he'd been on YouTube for a long time. And he was making so little money from YouTube that it was listed in other in his revenue streams. So there were like 10 other things that he was making money from that were better than YouTube. And we fixed his YouTube system, his funnel, and his approach. And immediately he was making $4,000 a month from YouTube, then $32,000 a month from YouTube. And eventually he scaled it all the way up to 7 figures. And we 4x the amount of leads that he was getting directly from YouTube. But it wasn't just the direct money, but it was also the indirect money he was making. Because people would look him up after they see his ads or his emails, and they would find that he has a super useful, super helpful YouTube channel that also establishes his authority. And then they would end up buying way more from him. And by the way, some people have literally had a single call from us and ended up making tens of thousands of extra dollars because they're making obvious mistakes. Just like Dr. Clifford Stumey. He had a single call with us and he added $24,000 a year annual recurring revenue just by making one simple tweak, right? One mistake that he was making added $24,000 a year in annual recurring revenue. So like I said, book a free strategy session. The audit was only good for 10 people, so link below. So one of the biggest things when you get people on email, which you absolutely should be gathering emails, guys, because you actually own your email list, right? Is we built sequences that do the selling for him, right? And we do this for all of our clients. And the key is to stop teaching as much in your emails and start telling stories, right? Stories about transformation, stories about the cost of inaction, stories that make them think, That's me. Because stories sell, lessons don't. Now, of course, you weave lessons into each story. That's an important thing to do as well. But if you're just making purely educational content, it's not gonna move the needle as much. And there's really 3 types of content that you can make: entertainment, education, and inspiration. And every channel is gonna be a mixture of these 3 things. So just as an example, on my main channel, I'm probably about 60% education, 30% inspiration, and 10% entertainment. Okay, so the next layer, layer 4, is the high converting sales infrastructure. So doing normal strategy calls is dead. And you know what works better instead? Is placing scarcity and urgency into your calls. So just as an example, I said earlier that there were only 10 spots open for a free $1,000 audit. And the spots are gonna fill up very quickly, and we're not gonna do it by the end of the week. That creates scarcity and urgency for people to book a call. And it's true, we're only going to do 10 of these. But next week, I could give away something else for free, right? So I could say next week that we'll give away one of our GPTs that we usually charge people for completely free when you join the call. And only the first 10 people will get it, and it's only available until the end of the week. So again, I created scarcity and urgency. And that will quite literally probably double the amount of people that book calls. So just doing that, basically customizing your calls, will literally double the amount of people that book. So you should definitely do it. Down in the description, the pinned comment below. Now, another thing you could do to double the amount of people that book even further is to mention it multiple times in your video. Now, you want to be a little bit careful about how you do this. If you're making really mass market content, you probably just want to get people on a email list. So you'd probably just want to give them some type of lead magnet. But if you're making bottom of the funnel content that's designed to convert people, especially the type of content that you're going to be sending people to from other videos, then you really want to sell hard in those videos. And then during your strategy sessions, you want to actually make sure that you're giving value, right? Don't just hard sell people, but actually give value during the session. But with that being said, qualify people really hard. Be very careful about the people that you get on the phone. So if someone's not a good fit for your business, don't even get on a call with them. And by the way, this works for even more than just calls, right? If you're selling courses or digital products, etc., this works for that too. There's a reason why clothing companies do like 90 freaking sales a year, because that creates urgency and scarcity, and it makes people buy way more stuff. So how can you implement that into your channel and your marketing? All right, layer 5 is back-end maximization. And this is where the real money is. Your 5 to 10K offer, that is just the beginning. Smart operators have ascension plans because you're gonna bring people in at different levels. Just as an example, I brought people in that are already making 7 figures a year and they wanna get to 8 figures a year. Felix was an example of this. He was already crushing it on YouTube, making 7 figures a year, and he wanted help getting to 8 figures. And that's exactly what we helped him do. A few months ago, he sent me a message saying he's making $1.3 million a month. He's absolutely crushing it. So you might have an entry-level product, then a higher level product, and maybe even a higher level product. Just as an example, a couple of my YouTube consultant buddies will actually do build and release offers, but they only do it for people who are already mega rich, and they charge $300,000 to build out the person's entire team and start their channel and do all the work themselves. So these are the 5 layers, but in order to operate these layers effectively, you need systems. Systems will set you free because none of this works without systems. And I learned this from my mentor, Jeffrey, when I was young. So Jeffrey owned a bunch of different businesses. For instance, he owned a chain of hotels and he owned an animal refuge with lions and tigers. And besides paying me $1 for every Bible verse that I memorized, he also taught me that systems create freedom. And this is what transformed everything for his business, my business, and my clients. For instance, Antoine came to me burnt out. The dude's a father. He runs multiple businesses. He also has a full-time job where he makes over $500,000 a year. And he's a world-renowned tech sales expert. Plus he has investments and all kinds of other stuff going on. And he was trying to run a YouTube channel. So he was absolutely dying. So we built him systems. We hired somebody to help run his business for him. And now he's crushing it, doing over 100K per month and launching multiple businesses from his channel. And he's working a fraction of the time. And that's the real win, right? He got his life back. And another one of my clients, Stan, said it best. He said that he's been doing YouTube full-time for 6 years, and every time he talks to Shane, he learns new stuff. And the dude was already mega successful. In fact, he's the #1 YouTuber in the French market when it comes to make money online. But he didn't have the proper systems. And he was already crushing it, making like $400,000 a month, but I was able to save him a bunch of time so that he could then focus on growing the business, not being in the business. So here's your 90-day implementation roadmap. Week 1 to 2, audit what you're currently doing. Now you can either do this with us or you can do it yourself, but figure out what is your actual revenue per 1,000 views. And I bet you don't even know. And you do this very simply by taking your total amount of revenue divided by your total amount of views and then multiplying by 1,000. That is your revenue per 1,000 views. And another one you need to know is your revenue per video. So you do this one by taking your total revenue and dividing it by the total amount of videos that you've made. And that's your revenue per video, which again, I bet you don't know right now. And you need to know these numbers. Then weeks 3 to 4, install tracking. And we're not talking just Google Analytics here, real tracking, right? Who's watching what? Who's buying what? Who's worth pursuing? Now, an advanced system for doing this is Hyros. It does cost like, I think on the low end, $500 a month, and on the high end, several $1,000s a month. A less costly way of doing this that's not quite as automated or effective is going to be something like short.io. And this is basically where you track the clicks. And then when people buy, simply ask them where they saw you and what video they saw you from and questions like that. And then you're going to be able to know approximately which videos are actually generating revenue. And then weeks 5 to 8, deploy the layers, right? Deploy the new architecture, new content strategy, new lead magnets, new sequences. Then weeks 9 to 12, scale with systems, right? Hire the right team, have the right systems, utilize AI effectively. These are all things that we teach our clients how to do. And document the processes, right? So that you can remove yourself from the business. And sometimes this can be as simple as just recording yourself doing the stuff that you do over and over again. So you're literally just gonna do the stuff you're already doing, but you record yourself doing it and then you explain why you're doing it. Now, you can absolutely do this on your own. You can watch my videos, you can implement this stuff, but I find that one of the biggest things that's holding people back is the fact that they think that they can just do it all on their own, right? This is a cancerous mindset to have. If you wanna get somewhere, the fastest way to get to that place is to simply find somebody who's already there, somebody like me who's already making multiple 6 figures a month from YouTube, and then get that person's help. And also bring people onto your team. For instance, for our clients, we will hire them video editors and social media managers to automate all the tasks that they shouldn't be doing themselves. So book a call with us, limited spots, show me that you're serious, right? When you fill out the information, and let's do this. Let's build something that matters. Let's build something that lasts, that saves you time, and lets you focus on building your business. Oh, and fair warning, we will ask you about your current numbers on the call, so come prepared. And if you want to check out one of the clients that we helped in this video and a case study from them that we did, from an interview we did with them, check out Sean, who went from 30K per month to over 500K per month within 9 months by clicking right here.